definition, a one-world government. This plan is not new. It has been developed and gradually moved forward ever since the end of World War II and the creation of the communist-controlled United Nations, originally organized by communist spy Alger Hiss. General Nathan F. Twining declared, quote, "I can summarize my views on national security planning into two sentences. The leaders of an organized conspiracy have sworn to destroy America and the free world by one means or another, and there is no real evidence available at this time to indicate that their objective has been changed. Therefore, we had better be prepared to fight to maintain our liberty." Unquote. Commenting further on these proposals in 1963, Walt Roscoe, then chairman of our State Department Policy Planning Board, wrote, quote, "It is a legitimate American national objective to remove from all nations, including the United States, the right to use substantial military force to pursue its own interests. Since this residual right is the root of national sovereignty and the basis for the existence of an international arena of power, it is therefore an American interest to see an end to nationhood as it has been historically defined." Unquote. This is the communist plan to destroy this nation as an independent, freedom-loving power. This nation which is, to Latter-day Saints, the Lord's base of operations in these latter days. On the surface, at least, the United Nations military structure is similar to that in our own country. The Military Staff Committee, comparable to our Joint Chiefs of Staff, is made up of military men, but it is subject to civilian control. There is a man at the United Nations who holds a position roughly comparable to our own Secretary of Defense. His post is known as the Undersecretary General for Political and Security Council Affairs. Appointed by the Secretary General, this man has, in addition to wide and unspecified duties in the political field, three primary responsibilities in the field of military activity. First, he directs the Military Staff Committee in the performance of United Nations military action authorized by the Security Council. Second, he is in charge of all disarmament moves, which I have just outlined. And three, he is in charge of all atomic energy, which already has been turned over to the United Nations and that which is to be turned over in the future. It should be obvious that these three functions, centered in the office of the United Nations Undersecretary for Political and Security Council Affairs, may soon place into the hands of the man who holds that office absolute power of life and death over every one of us. I should think that Americans would want to know something about this man, that they ought to be passingly curious at least. Since 1945, there have been 9 men appointed to this position. 8 of these have been Russian communists, and 1 a communist from Yugoslavia. And yet there are those who blindly say the United Nations is not communist-dominated. What in heaven's name does it take to wake up the slumbering American spirit of resistance? Does not this list cause anyone to feel a chill of uneasiness? How much longer must we sit by and passively permit the international planners to get away with such gross perfidy? It is no longer enough simply to declare an opinion against disarmament. It is too late for mere gestures and admonitions. The hour calls for men of action to step forward and turn our ship away from the treacherous reef dead ahead, returning again to Vietnam. An increasing number of concerned Americans are asking, why not victory? When are we going to win in Vietnam? And why not? For some time, this provocative question has been making the rounds in the form of bumper stickers. It's more than just a slogan, for it dramatizes one of the most shocking aspects of the war in Vietnam. Hidden behind the barrage of confusing and self-contradictory policy statements is the plain fact that we are not going to win in Vietnam or anywhere else, for that matter, on our present course. Our leaders are supposedly convinced that any strong anti-communist action that would actually roll back the iron or bamboo curtain would certainly lead to nuclear war. Therefore, they have contented themselves with strictly the defensive policy of resistance, not counterattack, of containment, not victory. To better understand how this no-win policy is working in Vietnam, it is well to recall what happened in Korea. The communists invaded South Korea, leaving behind a trail of murder, plunder, and destruction. We responded to South Korea's plea for help, but we made it clear from the beginning that our objectives were limited, to the point that the enemy invaders really had little to fear. If they wanted to retreat behind the 38th parallel, to regroup and prepare another attack, we would not pursue them. If they wanted a breathing spell, we would agree to a ceasefire. They knew that our military commanders were forbidden to destroy their supply routes, the bridges over the Yalu River. In other words, the communists knew that their aggression would never be punished, that the very worst they would have to face was a stalemate and a settlement negotiated at the peace table where the aggressor and the victim are treated as respectable equals.
We know what the future holds and of the wars and plagues and desolations that will soon sweep the earth as a devouring fire.
Subversion in this blessed country and other countries of the free world, and the spread of wickedness by a giant conspiracy. Would you be interested in reading the Book of Mormon that records the downfall of two great ancient American civilizations as a result of internal secret conspiracies, and contains a warning to us today that when we see these conditions in our midst, that the Lord commands us to awake to our awful situation? With the increasing amount of aid and trade which we are providing the enemy of freedom, you might be interested to know what the Book of Mormon says will happen to a nation that upholds this conspiracy. Would you like to know of the warnings of the prophets about our increasing descent down the soul-destroying road of socialism and what they have told us to do about it?
Well, future histories say this about our time, that we could have gone to the moon and build cities there, but because we chose to use our technologies for evil purposes and war amongst ourselves, we abused our technologies to the point where we ruined this planet. That was delayed because of our pride, selfishness, and lack of spirituality. Well, this is what our future histories say about this era. The first decade of the third millennium.